I want you to imagine a ship, but not a normal ship, a monster. The MV Derbyshire was an OBO carrier, oil, bulk, ore. She was nearly 1,000 feet long. She weighed 90,000 tons. She was twice the size of the Titanic. She was built in 1976 using the most advanced British engineering. She had massive steel bulkheads. She had state-of-the-art radar. She was considered unsinkable in the modern sense. A rogue wave could hit her, and she would just shrug it off. In July 1980, she set sail from Canada to Japan, carrying 157,000 tons of iron ore. There were 44 people on board, the crew, their wives, and even a few children. As they approached Japan, they ran into Typhoon Orchid. A typhoon is dangerous, yes, but for a ship the size of the Derbyshire, it should have been manageable. She was designed to handle 30-meter waves. On September 9th, the captain, Kevin Underhill, radioed back to base. He reported that they were heaving to, stopping the engines to ride out the storm. He was calm. He wasn't panicked. And that was the last message ever received. The ship vanished. She didn't send an SOS. She didn't launch a lifeboat. She didn't even have time to shout Mayday. A search team scoured the ocean for weeks. They found nothing. No oil slick. No debris. No bodies. It was as if a hole had opened in the ocean and swallowed 90,000 tons of steel instantly. For 14 years, the families of the victims demanded answers. The government claimed it was an act of God. They blamed the weather. They blamed the crew. They said, maybe a hatch was left open, but the families knew better. Captain Underhill was a veteran. He wouldn't make a rookie mistake. They formed a union. They raised money. And finally, in 1994, they launched a deep-sea expedition to find the wreck. They found it. The Derbyshire was lying 4 kilometers deep at the bottom of the Pacific. But the condition of the wreck shocked everyone. The ship hadn't just sunk. It had exploded. It was shattered into thousands of twisted pieces of metal, scattered over miles. It looked like a bomb had gone off inside the hull. This discovery launched the biggest maritime investigation in history. How does a massive steel ship explode without a bomb? The investigators looked at the wreckage. They noticed something strange about the bow, the front of the ship. The bow was shattered, but the stern, the back, was relatively intact. This suggested the ship sank, head first. If the front of the ship filled with water, the weight of the iron ore would pull it down. The ship would tilt forward. As it dove, the water pressure would increase. At a certain depth, the air pockets inside the hull would implode with the force of dynamite. That explained the explosion. But what caused the front to fill with water? The investigators looked at the hatch covers. These were massive steel doors that covered the cargo holds. If a hatch cover failed, water would rush in. They used ROVs, underwater robots, to inspect the hatch pins. They found that the pins were bent, but they were bent inwards. This meant the hatches didn't fail on the surface. They failed underwater due to pressure. So, the hatches held. The ship didn't sink because a door was open. They were stuck. Every theory was failing. The hull was strong. The hatches were closed. Why did 44 people die in 4 minutes? They went back to the model testing tank. They built a perfect replica of the Derbyshire. They put it in a wave pool. They simulated Typhoon Orchid. They threw 30-meter waves at the model. It survived. They threw 40-meter waves at it. It survived. The ship was indestructible. Unless one engineer noticed something tiny, something insignificant. On the front of the ship, there were small pipes sticking up. Ventilation pipes. These pipes allowed air into the bosun's store, a storage room in the nose of the ship. The pipes were only 12 inches wide. They had lids, but the lids were flimsy. What if the waves tore the lids off? Here is the nightmare scenario. The Derbyshire is fighting the Typhoon. Massive waves are crashing over the bow. The sheer force of the green water rips the lids off the tiny ventilation pipes. It seems like a small problem. Who cares about a 12-inch hole? But the storm lasts for days. Every time a wave hits, water pours down the pipe into the bosun's store. Slowly, silently, the front room of the ship fills with water. Nobody notices. The sensors don't pick it up because it's not a cargo hold. As the room fills, the bow gets heavy. The ship starts to tilt forward slightly, just a few degrees. This tilt is fatal. Because the ship is now lower in the water, the waves don't just crash over the bow. They start crashing onto the hatch cover of hold number 1. The hatch covers are strong, but they are not designed to hold the weight of the ocean. As the ship dips deeper, a massive wave lands directly on hatch number 1. The steel buckles. The hatch collapses. Thousands of tons of water rush into hold number 1. Now the ship is really heavy. It tilts further down. This exposes hatch number 2. Smash. Hatch 2 collapses. Then hatch number 3. It is a domino effect. Within 2 minutes, the entire front half of the ship is underwater. The engines are still running full power, pushing the ship down into the deep. From the bridge, the captain would have seen nothing but the ocean rising up to meet him. He wouldn't have had time to radio for help. The ship didn't sink. It drove itself underwater. As the ship sank, the water pressure crushed the hull, ripping it apart instantly. The crew died before they even knew they were sinking. The investigation concluded in 2000. It took 20 years, but the families finally had the truth. It wasn't the crew's fault. It was bad design. Designers didn't think a tiny ventilation pipe could sink a giant. Because of the Derbyshire, maritime laws changed forever. Ships now have reinforced vents and stronger hatches. Today's bulk carriers are safer because of the Derbyshire 44. It's a terrifying reminder of the butterfly effect. If you ignore the smallest detail, a 12-inch pipe, the ocean will find it. The wreck still lies at the bottom of the Pacific, but the families can finally rest. They proved their loved ones didn't fail the ship. I am your host. Watch the small things. Subscribe.